Well, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, we are back reviewing IEMs again. It has been some time. It has been since, I guess, the end of February since we uploaded a review of an IEM. And today we are going to review the Dunu Titan S, which has been sent to us by a friend of our channel. And I would link his audio store, in the description down below. It's a loaner unit, and this review is still going to be going to be as honest as I would, as my usual reviews are. So a bit on coming back into the game, Also, expect a lot of ums and and those kind of things, because I haven't been speaking English since around that time, at least not in a long period of time. I do speak English here and there, but most of the time of me training my English speaking skills was by making videos in the previous years. So do expect a lot of those and ahs and those kind of things. With returning to reviewing IEMs, we need to refigure what kind of IEMs are relevant in the present time. So I personally did a lot of IEM testing during meets and visiting some audio stores, and in those meets I've listened to the Dunu Titan S, which was owned by said friend of the channel, and he decided to, okay, you can review this unit, and just honestly review the unit and just send it back to us. And so yeah, I just got this unit free of charge, and I don't actually have this unit, and it's just loaned. So yeah, I have quite familiarized myself with the current audio budget IEMs that's available on the market. But I still don't own those budget IEMs, so I'm still, as comparison unit, I would still use my usual older benchmarks for IEMs, such as the Moondrop Starfields, the Ricoh or Usicon SG01s, the Tinty2s, the OG Tinty2s. And I did a lot of comparison of the Tinty2s with the newer Tinty2s, like the Plus and the Evos, and also the DLC. I've listened to the DLC, and I would prefer to make that to make that comparison in a separate video. And also the Hasesound Hard Mirror, which is one of my favorite IEMs. And so the channel would have a bit of a reformat, I guess. So we would not be uploading, as you can see in this Dunu Titan S review, you would not see Jason's review on this unit, particularly not at least not right now, because we are changing the format of the channel to be a bit more laid back, I guess, and to not be as strict nor as tight as we used to be. So reviews will come here and there when we have the spare time to do so, and some discussion topics would be there. Not a lot of discussion topics would be in English, because I think the topics would be discussed on those videos. There are already plenty of them in English, and not a lot in Bahasa. So I would prioritize content in Bahasa in terms of discussion, and for older and non-hyped, I guess, IEMs. But with the newer stuff, we would, as usual, do the two language thing, and especially reviews for headphones, because there aren't a lot of fans of headphones in Indonesia, so we would still do 2 languages on those reviews. So without further ado, and this has already been 5 minutes, the review of the Dunu Titan S. So I need to make a note on the timestamps for these. Okay, the Dunu Titan S is overall a fantastic IM for the price, and I'm actually glad that this is going to be our entry IM for our comeback. Yeah, overall it's a very solid IM, but it's a solid tuning and a solid presentation. That's the TLDR basically. So the overall tuning of this Dunu Titan S is somewhat similar with the Moondrop Arias or the other Moondrops around this price, like the Starfields. Starfield is a bit more expensive, but yeah, around the Aria and the Aria Snow, it's quite similar in terms of its presentation. However, you do have a bit more energy at the upper mid-range, so on some tracks, or especially at female vocal focused tracks, you would sometimes get a little bit of shout. But it's still very manageable and very cool. I guess it's still very okay to me. In terms of bass, the overall bass presentation here it's not the fastest bass, definitely. If you listened to a lot of metal music, for example, I have quite a few metal music, for example, for those who wish to exist by architects. Yeah, in the second song on that album, Black Lungs, and the third song, Giving Blood, sounds a bit messy, especially on the bass notes and the drums and the kick drums. It can't reproduce as accurate or as precise presentation as a bit faster driver like the Huzzy Sound Hard Mirror, but it still has enough speed for the bass to not sound bloated, or it's not bloated, it's rather muddy or messy. It doesn't sound messy at all, but it doesn't have the attack speed that I was looking for in a bass for metal music, especially if you listen to a faster type of kick drum metal, like if you listen to a lot of Falcone yeah, Falcone intense symphonic metal music, like the Undertale one, the Battle Against Asgore music. It's quite fast in terms of kick drums, and it doesn't have a very accurate reproduction here. In terms of quantity, I think it's a very good amount of quantity. I don't feel these lack in bass quantity at all. In terms of dynamics, it's fine. I don't think it's the most dynamic, or I don't think these lack in dynamics at all. It's quite decent in general, the overall dynamics of the IEM. In terms of depth, texture and depth, it's average, I guess. It's quite detailed too. It's not grainy, nor what do you call it? It's not smeared sounding. It's quite good there at that region, and it doesn't bleed down to the upper bass and lower mids, and it still sounds very solid. For the mid-range, as usual, you do have that somewhat of a harmonious presentation with an extra spice in the upper mid-range, extra energy there. I think for me personally, I think it's a little bit too elevated there. But I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's the worst mid-range that I've ever listened to. It's somewhat still warmish type of presentation. It's not bright, it's not annoying, but you do get a little bit shoutiness at that upper mid-range region. For lower mids, it's solid. It's solid. If you like the lower mids presentation of the aria, someone has that. It has a little bit less energy at the lower mid-range, but it's still fine in my opinion. It doesn't lack body or no fullness to it. I think it still have that. For treble region, I think it's adequate. It's not too forward. I don't think it's not forward enough. I think it's adequate in terms of quantity. In terms of treble quality, we'll get to that later in the details department. So yeah. So I guess that's for the general tuning. It's still a very pleasant tuning. It's very, very natural sounding. Maybe slightly V-shape or slightly mid-forward V-shape, slightly W-shaped, I guess. But it's still good. It's still very good. Okay, for technical performance, I think this isn't lacking at all. Surprisingly, something with this tuning, with this good tuning, and has very good technical performance exists right now. So yeah, if you're looking at the arias, at the Moondrop arias, and you think, oh, I want to buy the arias, which is represented here by the starfields. This is the starfields, like a fucked up starfield. But this also represents the aria. I think the starfield is a bit at a higher price point than the Dunu Titan S. But I'm also going to compare these with the starfields because the aria and starfield sounds very similar. Though the starfield is a bit more resolving than the aria, this is actually slightly, ever so slightly more resolving than the starfield. So this is better than the aria in terms of detail. If you're looking for aria, and if you've listened to some reviews, or actually our reviews about the aria, we mentioned that the aria is a bit grainy in terms of the treble presentation. This treble is very smooth in terms of its presentation, which is quite a good sign actually. And it also have very good treble detail. It's not the best, it's not the most resolving in terms of its detail capabilities. I think something like the highest sound hardware and the T2s still edges a bit on the resolution department. I think it has a very good resolving capability. It's about as similar as the Ricoh or Usicon SG01, which is slightly less resolving than the High and T2s, which is the most resolving at this price category from what I've listened until now, and somewhat also slightly less resolving than the T2 DLC, which is also very resolving. But it's not bad. It's definitely not. It doesn't sound grainy. It doesn't sound smeared. Everything sounds nice and clear, I guess you can say it. It's also a bit more resolving than T2 Plus if you listen to those already. So yeah, in terms of soundstage, it's not as wide as the T2s. It's not as wide as any of these, except for maybe the Ricoh SG01. It's a bit wider than the Ricoh SG01. It's somewhat intense presentation of soundstage. Might be preferable for some listeners. For me, I would prefer a bit more space, I guess, in the music. But in the modern IM opinion that IMs don't have soundstage, well, it's accurate on the Dunu Titan S. It doesn't have a lot of soundstage, definitely. Oh yeah, by the way, this is the Etymotix ER2X. I almost forgot. Oh yeah, about the treble detail, I will also mention that the Etymotix ER2XR is not good at it, and I think if you're looking for treble detail, the Dunu Titan S with this kind of tuning, they are both tuned to a very similar shape, general shape. And I think the Dunu Titan S has a bit better resolution capabilities in the treble region. The treble region of the Etymotix is a bit grainy to me. However, in terms of mid-range and bass detail, these two are very competitive with each other. So yeah, and maybe about the tuning, I would slightly lean towards the Etymotix for bass and mid-range. I think they are tuned slightly better. It's a bit more neutrally tuned. But for overall listening experience, I still pick the more resolving and a bit more extended treble presentation of the Dunu Titan S. That's just for my personal preference. And with imaging, it's fine. I guess it's fine. It's limited with its soundstage width, but it's fine. I guess it's not bad. It's not too note. You don't note the imaging as something exceptionally good or exceptionally bad. It's just okay. And yeah, in terms of timbre, it's good. It's not dry. It's not super wet. It's not super overly slow and sluggish in its presentation. It's good. The transient response is here. Maybe it's slightly slower than what I would prefer, but it's good enough, I guess. So yeah, I guess in terms of overall presentation, let's compare it with these one by one. I did the comparison with the Etymotix. So next with is the Starfish and the Aria. As I said before, the Dunu Titan S is ever so slightly more detailed than the Starfields, especially in the everywhere, I guess. And it's noticeably more detailed than the Aria, because even the Starfield it's noticeably more detailed than the Aria. And yeah, so in terms of tuning, I would still slightly prefer the presentation of the upper mid-range of the Starfields. However, the bass quantity I would still prefer in the Dunu Titan S, because it has less bass quantity, especially in the mid bass and the upper bass. So I would prefer the cleaner presentation of bass of the Dunu Titan S. It's also a bit faster than the Starfields in terms of bass speed. And compared to the Rico SG01s is a bit more V-shaped sounding. It's a bit more intense. It's smaller in terms of soundstage. However, you might like it. You might like if you're looking for something more V-shaped, you go with the Rico SG01s. It's still a tasteful presentation of V-shape. However, the tuning is, in my opinion, superior with the Dunu Titan S. It has a more accurate presentation if you're looking for that quality. Comparing with the T2s, the original T2s, or even the T2 DLC, it's quite... The DLC is very different from the T2s. It has the worst time. Oh, I'm not going to go with that for those. In terms of detail against the T2s, I think the T2s and the horizontal mirror slightly edges out in terms of detail of just resolution than the Dunu Titan S, ever so slightly. It's not significant at all. And I think the Dunu Titan S is definitely better tuned than both of these IEMs. But in terms of its spatial presentation, I would say these two IEMs are also better than the Dunu Titan S. The T2s are wider, definitely wider. It's more open sound. It's more expansive. It's like the HD800 of budget IEMs. And the imaging and the depth of the soundstage on the horizontal mirror is a bit better. It's noticeably better than the Dunu Titan S, and it's somewhat like the Hyperman Arias of the budget IEMs. And yeah, so you have those kind of advantages if you're looking for these IM. They are definitely brighter and peakier. If you're not very good with brighter or peakier IMs, definitely avoid these two. But for me, I don't hear the peaks. Maybe how the frequency interacts with my ear canal minimized the peaks that they have on these two IMs somehow. But I do hear the peaks on the Rico SG01, so have that going on. And also, even the one at the Etymology R2XR, I do hear that peak up there, that graininess. And yeah, so it depends on which qualities are you indexing more. I personally prefer technical performance. I index more on technical performance than tonal balance, so my preference would line up a bit more on the 10T2s and the Hard Sound Hard Mirror. However, the same can't be said for everyone else, so for at least half of everyone else. So yeah, I guess that's it for the review of the Jotunheim, as I would definitely recommend you the Dunu Untitled if you're looking for a more harmonish sound with a little bit more upper mid-range, a little bit more at least detail than the a lot of the harmonish tuned offerings on this price range. So yeah, it's a splendid IM in terms of technical performance and tuning. I guess that's it for the review. See you next time, Godspeed.